Peace, family. Desiree D. Ray Wise back here. And listen, there is a divine connection between sacrifice and manifestation. And when we understand this divine connection between sacrifice and manifestation, we set ourselves up to receive all the things that we desire. Understand that there is no strength without some struggle. So, our ability to take ourselves through a moment of sacrifice, some time of sacrifice, is directly in alignment with our transformation that is necessary in order to create what we desire. And so today, we're going to be diving into what that divine connection between sacrifice and manifestation is. How do we lean into that? How do we focus on that? And how do we use that in order to create the life that we desire? Listen, it's Sacrifice September. It is Sacrifice September. Spirit has been giving me this message for the last 2 weeks now, right? The message that I have for y'all today is directly in alignment with a lot of the transformation and revelations that I've been receiving, and it's powerful and it's necessary. So I want you to understand this connection so that you can start doing the work this month. You can commit yourself to making the sacrifices that are required of you. All right. Most of you have been feeling this same exact energy. Most of you have been feeling this energy to be more disciplined, to be more focused, to be more consistent, to give yourself a challenge. Most of you have been feeling the same energy. And I'm going to be explaining to y'all today why that is, how to use it, and what the results will be as you do this sacred work. All right. So first things first, we have to talk about what sacrifice is. All right. What sacrifice is in a spiritual sense, it is an offering to God, your higher self. That is what sacrifice is. When you make a sacrifice, you are offering something up to that sacred divine part of you. All right. That's what we're doing. And even with just having that understanding, you understand that what you put out, you get back. What you give comes back to you. What you sow, you shall reap. Just understanding that law of cause and effect, right? You get the gist of why sacrifice is so important when it comes down to your manifestation. The real question is, what are you willing to give up in order to receive that which you desire? Okay? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to change about yourself in order to get that which you desire? Because at the end of the day, we have to let go of something in order to let something new in. All right. And throughout this month of September, this is the energy leading up to the fall season. We are being asked to start priming ourselves for purging, for letting go, so that we can reap the harvest. You know, it's so divine how the universe, God, really set this thing up, because another word we know for autumn, right, or the fall season, is harvest time. Is when you start to collect all of the things, all of the seeds that you've sown. It's when you start to reap and collect all the fruit. Okay. Wow. So throughout this month of September, starting now and then on into the fall season, you got to be sowing some seeds. The sacrifices you are being asked to make right now is your seed being sown. And at the end of this month, and in October and in November, you will be having an opportunity to harvest those seeds and to experience the benefit of your sacrifice. All right. So that's the energy that we are about to dive into right now. Make sure you all like the video. Let me go and share this video with my communities, because this information is so important. This information today is so important. Spirit has been working on me with it, y'all. And it's going to get real today. It's going to get real today. So peace to y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Sacrifice, the divine connection between sacrifice and manifestation. We all got things we want to manifest, whether it is health, whether it is love, whether it is partnerships. It doesn't matter what it is. When there is a desire in your heart that you want to birth, that you want to bring forward, that you want to create, when there is a desire in your heart, there's something that you have to give up in order for you to receive it. And here's why. A lot of the times, the reason why we don't have something is because we have not aligned with it yet. And the reason why we haven't aligned with it yet is because there's some thoughts, some emotions, some habits, some behaviors that are standing in the way of that manifestation. I like to call it inner contradiction. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's going to get good today. It's going to get good today. The reason why the manifestation has not come to pass yet in the physical form is because there are some mental, spiritual, emotional things that must be sacrificed from within you in order for you to align. Period. That's just how this thing works. So when we have that understanding, what we take from that and what we receive from that is there's a need for us to transform. There's a need for us to change. There's a need for us to start to embody a different energy in order for us to manifest. And that's the sacrifice. The sacrifice is, how can I be different? What can I do differently? How can I show up differently? How can I speak differently, think differently, act differently, behave differently to align more with what I actually desire? To align more with the vision that Spirit, God, your higher self has given you. That's the work right now. Okay? That's the work. And so today I'm going to be going in great detail on how we do this, why we do this. First thing that I want you to understand, family, this is so deep as Spirit was giving this to me. You have to become a living sacrifice. Meaning, the way you live is a sacrifice unto your higher divine self. Meaning the way you talk, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you show up is in reverence to the God that dwells inside of you. When you start to lead an anointed, gifted, purposeful life, this is what sets you up to receive all that you desire. Okay? And so the sacrifices that have to be made right now are the sacrifices that take place in the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical realm of yourself. The sacrifice I'm telling you that needs to be made right now is, what do you have to let go of to actually live like the God or goddess that you were created to be? What must you surrender? What must you change about yourself, about your life, in order for you to show up as that unique, divine, sacred being that you were created to be? Because the fact of the matter is, the more we live our lives in alignment with our gifts, our anointing, our purpose, the more we live our lives in that way, the more open we are to receive the fortune, the abundance, the love that aligns with that energy. Okay? So what that means is you have to become a living sacrifice. See, back in the day, right, and still in some of these other spiritual practices, the sacrifice was made by slicing the throat of a goat, right? Wow, this is so good. The sacrifice was doing things like that, or the sacrifice was placing food on an altar and doing things of that nature, right? We've heard about that. Y'all have seen all of this before. Even in the Bible, we hear Jesus being the ultimate sacrifice, God sacrificing his only begotten son, right? But we don't have to do that right now. And the reality is, family, is that your sacrifice has to cost you something. If your sacrifice doesn't cost you something, if it doesn't cost you your comfortability, if it doesn't cost you your habits, if it doesn't cost you what you are used to, then the sacrifice doesn't work. See, that's why the slicing of the goats and the burning of all of these things, the reason why that stuff is not as powerful as it used to be is because now y'all ain't, you're not chopping up your own goat and feeding your family with that. You're just not doing that. So sacrificing a goat or doing things that these old religious practices used to do, it doesn't work in this space and time. What works in this space and time is you sacrificing something that you've been attached to. It's you sacrificing something that you've been used to, a habit that you've become ingrained with, a thought that you've been connected to, an emotion that you've been allowing to govern your life, a relationship that you feel like you have to have. See, sacrifice right now in this space and time, it has to cost you something in order for it to result in a greater manifestation. Okay? If it don't cost you, baby, it ain't converting into anything. If the sacrifices you are making right now don't make you feel uncomfortable, you're not touching on the right thing that is actually going to shift your life and shift your reality. There's a divine connection between sacrifice and manifestation. And the divine connection between sacrifice and manifestation is transformation. See, when you have to sacrifice something, when you have to let something go, when you have to purge something, this changes you. It changes your character. It changes your quality. It changes your personality. It changes your perspective. It changes how you show up in the world. And it is required of you to change, to align, and to evolve in order for you to get that manifestation. If you are not willing to change and transform and evolve and align at the highest level, that thing that you desire is not going to flow into your life, because we only attract what we are. We only attract who we are. And so the sacrifices that are being made right now are sacrifices that have to happen in the mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, and financial. Okay? That's what's going on. So the question that you all have to ask yourself right now in this space and time is, what must I let go of to live a more aligned life with my gifts, my anointing, and my purpose? That's the first question. The second question that you have to ask yourself right now is, what habits, behaviors, thoughts, and emotions must I surrender to be more in the spirit rather than in my flesh? See, manifestation and creation happens on the spiritual level. And a lot of times we're thinking that changing things in our physical reality, we're thinking that that's what's going to make us to manifest and have the life and the dreams and the goals that we desire. But the reality is that you got to get out of your flesh. You got to get out of the ego. You got to get into the spirit. You got to get into your spiritual alchemy and transformation. That's where it's going to happen at. All right. Your ability to manifest whatever it is that you desire, whether it's money, relationships, a business, a house, car, child, whatever, does not matter what it is. There is a spiritual shift that has to take place inside of you in order for you to bring that thing into your reality. And that's just the facts. So the sacrifices, you got to give up something. So good. You got to give up something. You got to let something go. You have to commit to a certain type of spiritual work consistently in order for you to manifest what you desire. See, visualizing about that goal, thinking about that goal, talking about that goal, or even acting on that goal one day is not enough. When we're talking about sacrifice, we're talking about making a commitment. We're talking about developing a discipline, a practice. and doing it until you get to that result, doing it until something shifts in the spiritual realm, doing it until you start to think, feel, act, and behave from that aligned place. I hope y'all are I hope y'all are picking up what I'm putting down, because this is super, like, it's intense. I'll say it that way. It's intense where we're being asked to go right now. All right. Right now, we are being asked to purge, to purify, and to essentially cleanse ourselves to be that vessel, that sacred vessel in this physical form that we are meant to be. That is what we're being asked to do. And so we have to really look at how we've been living and what actions, what thoughts, what emotions we've been living out and manifesting that has been standing in the way of what we desire. And so it's Sacrifice September. It's literally time right now to get busy in your work. If you're not doing your work, you're not setting yourself up to have a powerful, purposeful, aligned fall and winter season. And y'all already know this. For a lot of people, the fall and the winter are the most stressful or depressing times of year, right? Because the seasons change, the sun is not out. A lot of people are spending money, and if you don't have the abundance to participate in that commerce, that can make you feel some type of way. Many people have lost family, and so not being able to celebrate these holidays with family members may make you feel some type of way. We are going into a time where you have to be vigilant about your well-being, period. And the thing that keeps you grounded in this very intense emotional time throughout these seasons, the thing that actually keeps you grounded is knowing that you are purposeful, gifted, and anointed. It's knowing that you are a sacred being. It's knowing that you are a divine being. It's knowing that you are powerful. It's knowing that there's a specific reason as to why you are here right now. So when chaos is happening in your life, the thing that keeps you pressing forward, the thing that keeps you present, and the thing that keeps you alive, the thing that keeps you alive is knowing that there is a special calling over your life. That's the thing that keeps you pressing forward. That's the thing that keeps you waking up every day. That keeps you getting up out of the bed, putting your feet on the ground, and doing your best. It's knowing that you are uniquely and divinely made to serve a sacred purpose. And so during this season of sacrifice, what we're talking about is letting go of all the things that stand in the way of you being who you were called to be. And as you let those things go, as you surrender those thoughts, those habits, those people, those relationships, as you surrender that, this is what aligns you more with the manifestations that you've been affirming and speaking out for. Okay? But it got to cost you something. It has to cost you something. It has to make you feel some type of way. The sacrifice that you have to make in this space and time must cause some uncomfortability. If it don't make you uncomfortable, it's not a sacrifice. Sacrifice, y'all, is letting go so that you can let in what you desire. Sacrifice is letting go so that you can let in what you actually desire. Wow. So right now, we are being asked to let go of the personality traits, the qualities, the behaviors that do not align with the character, with the mental, emotional well-being, right? And the qualities that align with what we want. I'm going to give you a very real example of this. I've had to sacrifice TV and social media. And I am, how do I say? I am comforted in a sense when I watch TV, right? I love my Project Runway. What's today? Today's Wednesday. I love my Project Runway. I love my Master Chef. I love competition shows that have to do with creativity, right? And it's soothing for me. But Spirit had just told me about 2 weeks ago that I had to let it go, right? I had to surrender it. I had to move away from it because Spirit was like, girl, you got a lot of work to do. And Spirit was like, in those times where I'm watching TV or maybe I'm scrolling social media, those are times where I need to be picking up a book and reading. Because in the work that I do as a spiritual healing coach, as an influencer for spirituality and for high vibrations and for love, as a teacher, as a coach, in this work that I do, the more knowledge and wisdom that I take in, that I receive, the more powerful, the more impactful that I am. And so my goal every time I go live or anytime I create something, anytime I show up, my goal is to create impact for in the highest vibration of love. My goal is always to for me to keep changing and healing and transforming, and for me to share that wisdom and insight with y'all so it can change your lives. And so Spirit was like, when I'm watching these shows or when I'm scrolling Instagram and such, that's not giving me what I need in order to align with the goal that I have. And so Spirit was like, you got to turn the TV off. And so for the last 2 weeks, right? For the last 2 weeks, I have not been watching TV, even in those moments where after a certain time, y'all, after like 5 o'clock, I'm like, I'm sitting down and watching TV. I'm just relaxing, taking my mind off of things. Spirit was like, you can relax by reading a book. You can relax by listening to one of these classes you done invested in. You understand what I mean? And so that's a sacrifice for me, because watching TV and aimlessly scrolling social media, that has been a false sense of comfort for me. Do we understand? Right? Watching Project Runway, I just relax. I just be like, okay, whatever, I'm cooling. And so that feels comfortable to my human. And so for me to say, okay, I'm not watching TV all day until this time. And then when I watch TV, I'm only watching it for about an hour. And then I got to get back into my work or get back into my grind. That's a sacrifice. Because my body, right? My habit wants to sit down. When I finish going live, when I'm done pouring all of this energy into y'all, my habit is, I done gave a lot. Let me sit down and relax. But spiritually, my spirit is like, no, this ain't the time to relax. There's other things you can do. After you go live, why don't you go back and listen to the video? Make some clips so that you can share little tidbits and nuggets about what you just shared. Why don't you actually engage with your own content and see how you can get better? See how you can deliver a message more powerful. Do you understand? So me deciding not to turn on the TV, me deciding to get off of social media unless I'm posting, that is a sacrifice, because my body is going to want to do that because it's a habit, because I've been doing it for so long. Do we understand? Right? But I'm making this sacrifice and dedicating more time to inputting wisdom and knowledge into myself. I'm dedicating time into reading my books, listening to my own content, right? Doing the different things that I need to do, setting up classes and stuff that I have going on, making my classes better, so on and so forth. I am sacrificing that level of comfort to get to the goal of being a better teacher, coach, spiritual healer, advisor, etc., etc. Do you understand? So it's sacrifice time. And what's already happening? This is so good. What's already happening inside of me just from making that decision for the last 2 weeks? What's already happening inside of me is, as I listen back to my work and as I spend time reading, what's actually happening already is I'm feeling more powerful. I'm feeling more like, oh my God, like I looked at myself in the mirror the other day. This was, and I don't know why this happened, but that's just how spirit is working, right? I looked at myself in the mirror and I just said, I am meant to do this. I said, having these spiritual conversations, talking about tapping into our own internal power, really activating that God energy within. I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was like I was reminding myself and I was empowering myself when I looked in the mirror. And so you see, what I'm expressing to you is that when you make sacrifices, this forces you to lean more into the gift, into the purpose, into the anointing. It's so good. Oh, my God. The sacrifice of turning the TV off and getting off of social media is forcing me to commune more with myself. And the more that I connect with my sacred self, the more that I'm in meditation, the more that I'm in prayer, the more that I'm reading, the more that I'm looking at myself and looking at where I desire to go and where I am right now, the more time I am spending in that, the more powerful I'm becoming, the more powerful I become within myself, the more impactful I am as I'm showing up in this work. Do we understand? Sacrifice is the gateway to manifestation. When you make sacrifices and you do the things that are uncomfortable, you do the things that push you out of feeling safe. When you do the things that force you to stretch, what happens is you start to develop the character, the mentality, the emotion, the behavior, the habits that align with that manifestation. And so you must be willing to let go of some sort of habit, some sort of thought, some sort of belief, some sort of practice. You must be willing to let that go in order to let in all that you actually desire. If you're not willing to sacrifice, you're not willing to manifest. If you're not willing to do the work, if you're not willing to be forged by that fire, if you are not willing to go through the process of being torn apart and at the same time put back together, you are not willing to draw in and align with what you want to have and who you desire to be. And so we're in the season of sacrifice. And so right now I'm going to tell you all some different forms of sacrifice that you can be making based off of who you are and what you have going on. So I just told y'all for my own life right now and for what I'm doing, I have a goal of creating a certain amount of content every day, right? I have a goal of creating a certain amount of content every day. And the truth of the matter is that in those times when I'm watching TV, I need that time to create to reach that goal, right? So this sacrifice work, this is so good. Sacrifice is a form of power. Sacrifice is what moves the hand of God. Wow. See, when you sacrifice with intention, you force things to shift in the spiritual realm. Really hear what I'm explaining to y'all. When you sacrifice with intention, when you say, I am doing this, I am letting go of this TV so that I can embody more spiritual power, so I can tap deeper into my gift, my essence, my purpose, so that I can experience more spiritual revelations, so that I can stop numbing myself, so that I can actually listen to what's happening inside of me. Because I know that when I do that, I become a more powerful speaker. I become a more impactful coach. I become more in tune and more aligned with the women that I work with and with I serve. So my intention for this sacrifice has to yield a result. And this is why you have to become aware, and this is why you have to utilize your word. You have to know the work that you are doing and why. Why are you doing that work? Why are you making that sacrifice? What are you asking God, your higher divine self, to reveal to you and to release into you? Let me tell you something. The reason why you have to sacrifice is because a lot of times you don't feel worthy or deserving of that desire unless you've worked for it. If you haven't done the work, you within yourself will not allow you to have that manifestation because you didn't give up something for it. Okay? And so when you sacrifice, this convinces you that now you are worthy and deserving of that desire. Woo! Another reason why we sacrifice is because you have to have dominion. Oh my God. You have to have dominion over whatever that thing is that is standing in the way of your manifestation. Let me give you a great example. Just using my myself, right? And what I'm doing, right? Just what I'm doing. We all know that social media, YouTube, is a big deal when it comes down to business and entrepreneurship. If you're not on social media, you really don't even have a business at this space and time. And so right now, I realized that social media was having more of control over me than I was having over it. And if it has control over me, then that means I can't conquer this thing and use it for what it is. I can't even get to the goal. Here, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. If I don't gain control over my social media use, and let's say I blow up, I get to 100,000 followers on social media. If I don't have mental, emotional, spiritual control over that, and I get to that level of celebrity on social media, what ends up happening is I get drowned out by all the social media noise because it's in control of me and I'm not in control of it. It has dominion over me. Okay? Let's take it from the perspective of finances. It says be master over the little in order to attract the many, right? So in terms of money, if you don't learn to master the amount of money that you make right now, making $1 million is not going to serve you. It will destroy you because you don't have control over the 100,000. You don't have control over the 50,000. The $50,000 is running you right now. What do I mean by that? If we're talking about finances, right? You feel some type of way, you got to buy something, right? Or when them bills come up, you start to feel stress, you start to feel anxiety. Or when you get paid, this is the only time you're feeling joyful and happy is when money is hitting your account. You think you're going to be blessed with $1 million? You think you're going to be blessed with $100,000 if you are controlled by 50,000? If you are controlled by 10,000? No. This is why people who win the lottery, right? We've heard this example before, but when people win the lottery, right? They win the lottery because they play so damn much. They're literally addicted to playing the lottery, right? So they play. They finally win. And then a few years later, they no longer have that money. Why? Because they didn't have dominion over money in the first place. Do we understand? So the reason why you have to make sacrifices is so that you can be the head and not the tail of whatever it is you're dealing with. See, I would find myself on social media just randomly. I'm like, why the hell am I even here? So imagine what would happen if I was having 100,000 views on my content. I would probably be really looking at these comments and really be engulfed in what these people got to say, when what these people got to say don't got nothing to do with me. Do we understand what I'm saying? And that's not even the example that I'm giving you in terms of social media. For me, that's not even the case. I really just be on it because of boredom. But that's what Spirit is telling me. Spirit is like, you can't be on social media because of boredom. If you're bored, pick up a book and read. If you're bored, you need to study your craft. Do you understand? If you're bored, you need to find something that is of interest, that is actually supporting who you are trying to become. Sacrifice. We make sacrifices so that we prepare ourselves and we cultivate ourselves, and so that we shapeshift into who we need to be to have the things that we are desiring to have, so that we can reap the harvest. Understand that your sacrifice is seed that you are sowing into the spirit. And right now it is very essential that we get out of the flesh and that we get into spirit, and that we really reside in that space. Here's why. Because in the spirit is where our protection comes from. So good. When we are focused on our spiritual, mental, emotional development, growth, healing, and transformation, this allows us to see our physical reality through the lens of God and from the mind of God, our higher divine selves. When we're in the flesh, we're only seeing things from our ego, conscious mind perspective. When you're in the flesh, you are susceptible to being caught up in the chaos of human reality. Okay? Your sacrifice is you offering yourself up to your higher divine self, to God. Your sacrifice is saying, I'm going to give up what is no longer serving me. I'm going to go through this process. I'm going to be forged by fire, but I'm going to come out a diamond. I'm going to sacrifice so that I can turn this water into wine. I'm going to sacrifice so I can turn this lead into gold. Your sacrifice is your offering to your sacred self. It is your commitment to discovering and understanding who you are meant to be. It is your commitment to letting go anything that is standing in the way of that divine manifestation and desire. You know, you're meant to be powerful, sacred, anointed, gifted, talented, impactful, prosperous, abundance. That is your nature. But we've lost sight of our nature based off of trauma, past experiences, programming. We've lost sight of our nature just based off of who we've been conditioned to be and how we've been conditioned to live. And that conditioning and that trauma is comforting to our flesh. So you may be in your normalcy. The way that you are living right now is not even in alignment with what is possible for you, but it's comfortable. You ever seen people comfortable in abusive relationships, comfortable in poverty, comfortable in lack, comfortable living paycheck to paycheck, comfortable in trauma and drama and stress? There's a certain level of comfort there because that's the experience that you've been used to. But your sacrifice is going to require you to get uncomfortable with those things that you know do not align with the vision. So I got to get uncomfortable with saying no to the social media and to the TV. I got to be okay with that. I got to go through that fire because here's what I know. I know one day I'm meant to be on TV. I don't know in what capacity. I'll tell you the truth, y'all. I had asked my dad this. This was in maybe 2010 or something like that. One of them 2010s, 11s, 12s, one of them. I don't really remember. But I had asked my dad. I said, Dad, you know, what do you see me doing? You know, I just wanted my dad's opinion. Like, Daddy, what do you see me doing? Like, your daughter, how do you see me? My dad said he saw me being on TV as like a news anchor. I was like, for real? A news anchor? That but the point was that he saw me on TV. I'm like, okay, all right, Daddy. Another experience like that. I was working at Papados. I was a hostess. This was right when I graduated from college. I was working at Papados because I was like, let me save up a whole bunch of money. I was trying to save up some money because I was about to move to Europe for a few months. So I'm working at Papados, and this tall, huge albino woman, she called herself the gifted one. This was my first experience with a woman who was a medium, right? She pulls me to the side at Papados. She says, hey, I got a message for you. Spirit wants me to tell you something. This kind of opened my eyes. This is how I really got started into spirituality and stuff. She said, I see you being on TV. And I'm like, okay. She said, yeah, baby, you got an anointing. You're supposed to be on TV. And I'm going to tell you right now that everything is working out for you. And you know what she told me? She gave me money. She gave me money. I want to say she gave me like $40 or something like that. She said, I'm going to sow this seed into you because you are meant to go out and do something. And I was like, wow. And then right there in that moment, she said, oh yeah, and Archangel Michael is walking with you. She told me all of this stuff. She was like, your great grandfather is coming through and he has a message for you. It was super divine. It was like one of those super spiritual experiences. The point that I'm making to you is I've had, and y'all are right? Like YouTube is a form of TV. So I am glad to be here. I'm grateful to do this work. It's all a part of the process, right? The point that I'm making to you is that in order for that to manifest in my reality, however, whenever it's supposed to happen, I don't know how. But I definitely see myself kind of like Iyanla Van Zant in a way, right? She's one of my people. At the end of the day, if I don't control how I use the TV, that reality can't manifest. Do you understand? If I don't control how I engage with this thing, I can't bring forth that understanding. Okay. So let's get into the different types of sacrifice. All right. The first form of sacrifice, y'all, is of course going to be spiritual sacrifice. Y'all write that in the chat. Spiritual sacrifice. That's the first form of sacrifice. And what spiritual sacrifice is when we commit ourselves to a meditation practice, to a prayer practice. And what that means is, or even like an affirmation practice. But here's how you make it a spiritual sacrifice. Because a lot of you meditate already, right? A lot of you say your affirmations. You probably even pray. A lot of you do those things already. Here's what makes it a sacrifice. Here's what takes it to the next level. What takes it to the next level is when you do that prayer, that meditation, that affirmation at the same time, at the same place, every day for an extended amount of time. Wow. Ooh. You know, dream-wise, we have first got together. And for some reason, the time 9:08. Oh shit, it's about to be 9:08, right? It's about to be September 8th right now. Wow, I'm gonna have to tap in with that energy. When we first got together, 2014, 2015, we're dating. Every day at 9:08, no matter what was happening, I would stop doing anything that I was doing when that time came up on my phone. I set an alarm. I would stop anything that I was doing, and I would just take a moment to express gratitude. No matter what. I might be sitting right there on the couch with Dreamwise. He probably rubbing my feet. We just now starting the date. I'm looking weird because he like, damn, this girl is sitting up here closing her eyes and saying some words every day at this time. But that was a spiritual sacrifice, right? So a spiritual sacrifice is when you go into meditation, prayer, affirmation. It's when you take a moment to become internal, but you do it at a certain time every day for a consecutive amount of days. That is spiritual sacrifice, because what you're doing is you're deciding to go inside, be internal. You're committing to connecting with your spirit in that work. All right. Now, the reason why you would do spiritual sacrifice, right, is, let's say you're needing to develop some more inner strength. Let's say you're wanting to activate your gifts. Let's say you're needing to tap into a deeper level of spiritual power. Let's say you're needing clarity. God, I be getting so excited. And when I be going back and editing my videos, y'all, I be hearing myself say, ooh, oh my God. Whew. I be like, girl, when I do that, it makes it so much harder for me to edit my videos, but I can't control how I be feeling. That's how I be feeling. Like when some of these things come through, I just get so excited and I cannot keep the excitement in. But when I'm going to back, as I've been doing this work that I'm telling y'all, I've been going back, listening to my videos, trying to cut them up, clip them, make more content. I'm having a hard time because I'm having to cut out my words of excitement. Let's start that one over. We would commit to spiritual sacrifice. All right. We will commit to spiritual sacrifice when we are needing spiritual strength, when we are needing spiritual power, when we are needing clarity. It's making me emotional. When we are needing heightened intuition, this is when you must commit to spiritual sacrifice. If you've been feeling confused, if your thoughts have been all over the place, if you've been having too many negative thoughts that you feel like you cannot control, if you've been lacking vision and understanding on where spirit is leading you to go, then you need to sacrifice on the spiritual level where you focus on tuning into yourself. Because as you make that spiritual sacrifice of prayer, meditation, affirmation at that specific time every single day, as you do that, you're strengthening up your ability to hear from spirit. Do we understand? And so you can pick the time of day that works for you. It may be 5 o'clock in the morning. It may be 7 a.m. Like I said, mine was at 9:08. I've done it at 11:11, right? When I first started getting hit with all the 11:11s, right? As we've all been through that process, at 11:11, anytime that I would set my alarm for 11:11 a.m. and p.m. And anytime that 11:11 alarm would go off, I would discipline myself to turn off everything that I was doing. And I would spend a few moments just tuning into my breath, meditating, praying, and just asking spirit for revelation and for guidance. Okay. So if you've been lacking clarity and vision and you feel like your intuition is off, right? And you feel like you're not receiving those messages, then spiritual sacrifice is something that you would tap into. And I'm telling you, you need to tap into it now. You need to commit yourself to at least 21 days of these practices. All right. Financial sacrifice. Financial sacrifice. If you've been living paycheck to paycheck, if you feel like you are drowning in your bills, if you feel like you cannot get a financial break, if you feel like your flow of abundance has just been stagnant, you have to make financial sacrifice. No one understand that all of these sacrifices that I'm talking to you about today, no one understand that they are all impacting your spirit. They're changing you. They're evolving you so that you can align more with what you desire. So if more finances is what you are needing right now, then you have to make a financial sacrifice. So let's talk about how we do that. Financial sacrifices would be tithing. I tell y'all, don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. You know, there was some benefits, great benefits of tithing when you were going to church. I remember when I had just graduated from college, I had a job. that was my first time of making money on my own, to where I felt responsible for my own tithes. You know, when you're a kid, you growing up, your tithes come from what your mama tithing, right? Your daddy tithing. And so when I became an adult and I started going to church by myself, I started going to a whole separate church than my family. I started to understand that I had to tithe, that I had to sow that financial seed. And I didn't have it like that, right? I didn't have a great job. Even though I had a college degree, I was still very much so struggling and trying to figure it out. I didn't have a car. I had a car, but it was the car that my mom bought me when I was in high school. It was a little tiny red Honda Civic. A tiny red Honda Civic. It was literally like a Mario go-kart. This car was so tiny. And it wasn't in alignment with my vibration, right? So I started going to my own church, y'all. And this was a time where I was like, oh, shoot, I have to start tithing. And so, y'all, every time I would go to this church, I would tithe. And like I said, the sacrifice that you make, it has to cost you. It has to cost your comfortability. When you are making a sacrifice, when you are becoming a living sacrifice to your higher divine self, so that you can be more aligned with your dreams, your goals, your desires, it has to cost your comfortability. The sacrifices that you are being asked to make, it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel good. It does something to you. But what it is doing to you is it is evolving you, it is changing you, it is healing you, it is transforming you so that you can be the person that you need to be to attract what you desire. You manifest what you are, not what you want. And so when we are becoming a living sacrifice to our higher divine selves, this is us becoming who we need to be in order for that manifestation to flow easily and effortlessly into our lives. And so when I was seeking to manifest more abundance in a car, I was sacrificing finances that my ego, my flesh would say I did not have. But I kept tithing. And every time I tithed in that church, I would write a note. I would write a little prayer on the little envelope, put it in there, whatever. After a few weeks of consistently tithing while I was coming to that church, I was able to buy my own car. No cosigner. And it was a Dodge Challenger. And I felt like a badass when that happened. That literally happened. So what I'm telling you is that when you are trying to grow financially, you have to make a financial tithe. A financial sacrifice, but it happens in more ways than one. Tithing doesn't mean that you're just giving money to the church. You can be disciplined to say, anytime I see a homeless person, I'm going to tithe $1, $2, $3 because I'm trying to grow my finances. So when you do that, this is you sowing a seed. And as you do that, the way that you view and see money and finances is going to change. You're going to see finances from a perspective that aligns with overflow, that aligns with an avalanche of money, that aligns with you being showered in silver and gold. So tithing. Another way to financially sacrifice would be to not splurge or overspend. This is literally something DreamWise and I have had to do. Where typically, so funny, whenever we would grocery shop, y'all, because DreamWise and I, we like little treats at night, right? Maybe it's a cookie, maybe it's some ice cream, something like that. But when we went into financial sacrifice, those things we have to stop buying. Because the reality is that we don't need the cookies. We don't need the ice cream. We don't need the cake. That was all psychological. And so when we said, okay, we're going to sacrifice and not buy those things, that is us sowing a seed. Another way that you do it is, let's say if you're making financial sacrifice, stop eating out. A lot of times when you're eating out, it's psychological. I don't want them leftovers. I don't feel like cooking. I don't have the energy to do it. And so you psych yourself up to spend this money that needs to be staying in your account. That's a financial sacrifice. So when you say, you know what, I'm not going to spend money frivolously, this is you gaining dominion over money, especially when it comes to like food and eating out. The reality is most of the time you're eating out because you're feeling lazy or you're craving something. It's not to fulfill the physiological need of hunger. So when you say, I'm not eating out, I'm not splurging on this food, I'm not going to this restaurant, when you say you're not doing that, that is a financial sacrifice that is strengthening you up to have dominion over your money and not allowing your mind to trick you, not allowing your flesh to make you feel like this is something that you require. Financial sacrifice. All right? When you're financially sacrificing, this is you tithing. This is you sowing seeds. Even when a big one. This is a big one for financial sacrifice. Financial sacrifice is also investing money into yourself. It's also investing money into yourself. What I mean by that is if you say, okay, I'm going to pay for this class. I'm going to buy this book. I'm going to buy these herbs. I'm going to get this reading. And you dedicate a certain amount of time, you say a month, okay? For this month, the extra funds that I have, I am investing in my growth. I am investing in my healing. I am investing in my well-being. Instead of me going out to eat like I do, instead of me going out with friends like I do, instead of me spending money on the clothes and on all of this stuff, I'm going to take my money and I'm going to invest it. I am going to circulate it back into myself. Financial sacrifice. And as you do that, you will reap a spiritual reward that manifests in your physical reality. All right? Let's talk about a body sacrifice. When we sacrifice our bodies, this is when we fast. This is when we are abstinent. This is when we discipline ourselves to exercise and work out every day. Whether it's going for a walk. I've literally been on all of these levels of sacrifice, which is kind of crazy that spirit has thrown me into all of them. Financial sacrifice, spiritual sacrifice, and even body sacrifice. Right? I'm literally deep into all of them. I've started. So let me tell you what I've been doing. Every night before I go to bed, I'm reading a book. Every night. Doesn't matter if I'm super sleepy or not. Even if I can only read a paragraph or a sentence, I'm going to read that before I go to bed. Because typically what we would do, let's say we don't have a TV in our room, right? We don't have a TV in our room. So we'll be watching a show on TV and then we'll be like, all right, it's time to go to bed. We'll go in our room and then we'll go to bed. But I've been adding some spiritual work in between the TV and me actually falling asleep. And what I've been doing is popping that book open, reading it, then going to bed, right? Every morning before I get up, and this is a habit really, but every morning before I get up, I sit in that bed and I just say my words of gratitude. This is sacrifice because I got kids. Got 3 and got 1 on the way. And they be having me going. But I sacrifice and I sit in that moment to really reflect, have gratitude, and get in the right energy. Boom, that's that. Body sacrifice. Multiple days out of the week, I'm getting up every morning and walking with Kimmy around our neighborhood. It's been work. It's tiring. I'm walking around our neighborhood for an hour. But it's a sacrifice that I'm making because I want to have the birth that I want to have. I want to have the sustainability and the strength to push this baby out. And so me going for walks is me building up that stamina. Me going for walks is me getting my hips and my legs and my lower body in alignment. That's me making the commitment, right? Intermittent fasting. So body sacrifices is going to be things like abstinence. Some of you need to be abstaining from sex as a sacrifice to your body. What do I mean? If you have addictions, if you know you're overweight and you're feeling unhealthy, if you're lacking self-confidence, if you don't like the way you look in the mirror, okay? If you have spiritual attachments, that are manifesting in the form of pain. Let's say you have a back pain that you cannot explain. You got shoulder pain, breast pain, headaches that you cannot explain. Then you have to do a body sacrifice. You have to sacrifice an aspect of your body in order for you to get that transformation and that breakthrough. So you would go through a body sacrifice if you have addictions. You could be addicted to sugar, addicted to smoking weed, addicted to alcohol, addicted to smoking. If you have attachment, if you have been in a toxic relationship, an unhealthy partnership, you need that you need that body sacrifice. If you know you need purification, if you know you've been feeling sluggish, if you know you lack vitality and energy, you just don't have that zeal, you need a sacrifice of the body. And so the way that we do that is fasting. Whether you completely fast, whether you juice fast or intermittent fast, this is sacrifice. Whether you abstinent, abstaining from sex, abstaining from porn, abstaining from masturbation, that is a sacrifice. If you decide, okay, every day I'm going to stretch or do some Kundalini yoga or regular yoga, go for a walk, that is sacrifice. Okay? These sacrifices, family, are required right now of us. And that's just a few. There are more forms of sacrifice that we do. All right? There are more forms of sacrifice that we do. So here are 3 things that I want you to consider as you are processing this message of sacrifice and manifestation today. 1, how do you react when you are uncomfortable? You need to know this. You need to be aware of how you react when you are uncomfortable. Because in the midst of sacrifice, there's a lot of uncomfortability. There's a lot of uncomfortability because, this is so good. Because the uncomfortability that you feel in your sacrifice is when the energies and the entities that don't serve you, this is when they arise. You know, when you're fasting and you feel irritated, when you're fasting and you got a headache, when you fasting and you just mad and you just annoyed and you're just emotional, what that is that sacrifice has irritated the entities, the energies, might I even say demons, that have been governing your life. And so when you make that sacrifice, it triggers them. It triggers that energy to rise up so that you can see it, so that you can chop its head off, and so that you can nip it in the bud. But if you don't pay attention to how you react when you are uncomfortable, you would find yourself just in the habit of just being, okay, I'm irritated, let me smoke. Okay, I'm irritated, let me drink. I'm bored, let me turn on the TV. I'm bored, let me scroll social media. Not understanding that in the uncomfortability, that is your opportunity to actually deal with the entities, the energies, the thoughts, the emotions that have been governing your life. You need the uncomfortability so that you can see what's been controlling you. If you do not allow yourself to get uncomfortable, you cannot see those dormant energies that have been governing the way you show up. Do we understand? So you need to know how you react when uncomfortable. How do you start to think? How do you start to feel? How do you start to show up? What is your habit when your back is up against the wall? What do? You need to know and understand that so that you can recognize, okay, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. Instead of me running away from this and soothing that uncomfortability with TV, with Instagram or TikTok, or with weed or with sex or with gossip, instead of me soothing this uncomfortability, let me sit in it because I understand that this uncomfortability is the catalyst to my growth. You got to be okay being uncomfortable because where you've been comfortable at is not serving where you have to go. Comfortability is the death of growth. You got to get uncomfortable. And you need to know what you do to self-soothe. All right? Understand this. As you are making these sacrifices, this is you leaning into spirit. This is you investing in spirit. This is you connecting with your higher divine self. And one of the greatest gifts of making this sacrifice, one of the greatest gifts of being a living sacrifice unto God, your higher divine self, one of the greatest gifts of that is spiritual protection, is spiritual fortification, and is healing. When you commit to doing the work, when you commit to going through the process, no matter how uncomfortable it is, when you make that commitment, you are also sealing a deal to be covered and to be shielded in this alchemical process. All right? I want you all to know and understand that you have the power. You have the power, you have the authority, you have the sovereignty to go through this. But you must be willing to go through it in order to be delivered from lack, in order to be delivered from unhealthy love, in order to be delivered from a lack of power or anointing. In order to be delivered from that, you got to go through this process. All right? I'll say it again. Understand that when you make a commitment and you make sacrifices unto, when you decide that you are going to be a living sacrifice unto your higher divine self, God, when you decide that you are going to go through the spiritual alchemical process, when you decide you're going to get uncomfortable, because this uncomfortability leads to your healing, because this uncomfortability leads to your manifestation, because this uncomfortability leads to your power. When you decide that you are going to do this, you are also inviting spiritual protection. You're also inviting transformation. You're also inviting spiritual fortification, meaning power. You are also inviting healing into your life. You know, the more spiritual work you are willing to do, the more empowered you become. All right. So you have to understand that working through these energies, allowing yourself to be uncomfortable, is how you deal with things at the root. You are this big, fruitful, beautiful tree. And you making a sacrifice is essentially you digging up the weeds, you digging up all of the roots that are no longer healthy and that are no longer serving your growth, your strength, and your power. Okay? That's my message for y'all today, family. I really challenge you to commit yourself to this work. I challenge you to really spend time in quiet reflection of this. It's necessary. And you would be doing yourself a disservice to not get busy with this work. So let me repeat those journal prompt questions for y'all one more time. And then as I'm doing that, if y'all have any more questions, you can put it in the chat and I'll be happy to answer for you. First question you need to ask yourself is, what must you let go of to live a more aligned life with your gifts, your anointing, and your purpose? All right? Understand that a part of being a living sacrifice, it means that you are totally invested to living out your purpose. You are totally invested to utilizing your gifts. You're totally invested in showing up in your anointing. That's what a living sacrifice is. To be a living sacrifice means that you have decided that you are going to show up as God, your higher divine self, that you are going to be your unique expression of source energy. That's a living sacrifice. Okay? And when you do that, you're going to realize, you're going to understand, okay, if I am meant to be a teacher, if I am meant to be a healer, if I am meant to be a coach, if I am meant to be a doula, a midwife, if I am meant to be an artist, if I am meant to teach about wealth and abundance, you're going to realize if that's what you are meant to do, if that's what you're gifted in, if that's what your anointing is, then you have to ask yourself the question, what's standing in the way of me living in that more fully? Okay? Because the reality is when you live in your anointing and your gift and your purpose more fully and you dedicate yourself to showing up in that, this is when the overflow of love, abundance, grace, mercy is showered upon you. It's because you are living and fulfilling your mission on this earth. Okay? When you are dwelling in your soul mission intentionally and on purpose, this is your protection. This is your fortification. And this is your abundance magnetism. So right now, it's about asking ourselves the question, what's standing in the way of me doing that more fully? What's standing in the way of me being in that energy more consistently? All right. That's question number one. Question number two is, what habits, behaviors, thoughts, and emotions must I surrender to be more in the spirit rather than in my flesh? What must you let go of to be more in tune with your spirit, your higher divine self, rather than being in your flesh? When you are in your flesh, this means you are in your humanity. This means you are in your ego. This means you are in the world and of the world. And when you're in the world and of the world, you are more susceptible to the chaos, dis-ease, disorder, disarray of this world. All right? Beautiful. Anybody have any questions before we get off of here? I appreciate y'all for spending this time with me. So grateful to have y'all here. It's been a pleasure. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all. Also, this past Sunday, I taught a class in Patreon. It was called Spiritual Protection from Viruses. Y'all need to tap in with that class. Head over to Patreon and listen to that because, man, Dreamwise and I really went in and just giving the family a lot of information, a lot of power to support you on this spiritual journey. All right. And then also understand that if you all are needing help and support in this work, book a complimentary call or a consultation or a reading or anything like that. I'm definitely here to support y'all in this work. I'm grateful for it. Number two again. Okay, the second question was what thoughts, habits, emotions must I surrender to be more in the spirit than in my flesh? Meaning, what are the things that are keeping you so attached to humanity? Is it the fear of money? Is it being afraid that something will happen to your children? Is it this fear that you won't find love? Like, what is those thoughts, those emotions, those habits that are keeping you human instead of rising up into your divine spiritual nature? Okay. All righty. I don't see any questions. I love y'all. I thank y'all. I thank y'all for supporting Dream and I in the ways that y'all do. Y'all are such a gift to us, and we're so glad to be able to be a gift to you all. So thank y'all. Thank y'all for being a part of the Patreon family, which most of y'all I see in here are. What great love. What great love that is. All right. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Oh, last thing. I am posting readings for air signs, fire signs, water signs, earth signs, all throughout this week. So stay tuned for that. I got some powerful readings, spiritual readings for the month of September. So make sure y'all listen to those readings once I post them, depending on what your zodiac sign is, because it'll give you more clarity on what your sacrifice needs to be for this month. All right. Yes, it is time to get it in. Peace, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see y'all soon.